Hi everybody, welcome back. This is our second episode of our video blog, our vlog. For those of you who had the chance to check out the first video, sort of get the idea of what we're trying to do here. Today, what we're going to be going into is a little bit more of sort of Ashlee's journey and how she has progressed from where she started to where she is now. There's huge changes that I was sort of introduced at the latter part, and it was interesting hearing some of the skeletons, if you will, in her closet. So I'm gonna let her go through
food skeletons.
So I'll let her go through her journey. If there are questions that come up while she's talking, I'll sort of interject. But so let's start from the beginning. What sort of piqued your interest? What got you started on this journey?
Well, I think the biggest thing that happened for me was just getting like a routine blood test, and I had really high triglycerides, and it does run in my family, like a lot of people say. But they wanted me to start taking medicine. I forget exactly what it was, but start taking this pill every day, and there wasn't like an end date to it. Not like I'm taking a 30-day prescription or something like that and then it's over.
Those kind of prescriptions scare me. And there's no real end date to it. I mean
that's not something
a red flag for me.
Especially, I think I was probably more around like 24, 25. So being young, you don't want to start taking medicine for the rest of your life if you can avoid it. Yeah. So they said the best thing that you could do is food, try what you're eating, and also start working out. So I just started working out and would try to do mostly healthy eating, like I think stereotypical healthy eating, like lean cuisines or like 100-calorie packed snacks, which are just the teas.
Looking at just calories in, calories out.
Right, and not really paying attention to still what I was eating. So had a very bland diet, very picky eater. So, I mean, if I ever went out to eat, it would be chicken tenders or anything like fried chicken.
So what I hear, I'm calling her out at this point. At one point, her mom would tell me that she would only eat chocolate chip cookies for breakfast.
Yep,
breakfast.
Chips Ahoy. The blue package, that is the best. I still stand by that.
And that's crazy to me. Like, I mean, okay, and obviously we're about to have a child. So I don't know how, I don't know what I would do in certain situations. However, it's always funny to me when I hear some parents justify and say, well, that's the only thing that they would eat. Like, it's really hard for me to believe, like, that's the only thing.
Well, because you've never been in this situation.
I've never been in that situation. It's absolutely true.
But, I mean, I would definitely put up a fight and wouldn't eat anything. Sit at the table. We would go to war. So.
We'll see. I mean, I like I said, I at this point, I can't, we'll have to inform people as we go to what the challenges we are facing and how we handle that. So that one will be shelved for a later date, and we'll probably go back. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So started working out, just going to the gym, and I think went back a year later and my numbers had improved a little bit, but we're still not like to an ideal range. I don't remember exactly what they were off the top of my head. So then I started to try to incorporate new food and more natural food. So I did not eat a lot of vegetables, so started introducing some like basic vegetables, and I would eat, it's kind of surprising that like I'm 26 years old and trying to eat strawberries for the first time, and being like, wow, this is really good. This is something I could eat. But
And now something that I also found very interesting is when you had your first allergic reaction and at the age that you had your first allergic reaction, because you had never had peanuts before. So I'll let you sort of go into the story about like your allergy.
yeah, so I kind of got shied away from trying new food because when I did try to eat peanuts at age of 23, I had a severe reaction where my throat was closing, near death experience in my eyes, but very traumatizing.
Absolutely.
About to pass out at the White Sox game, throat was closing, finally got epinephrine and survived, but it did kind of traumatize me from trying new things just because I had that belief attached to it that, something like that could happen when trying something new.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, tried lots of new things since then, and I'm still here. So,
Yes.
So I think that was the biggest thing, just trying new things, and I would kind of make it a challenge to incorporate, I would like mentally prepare myself. Okay, this week I'm going to go to the grocery store and buy this and try it. And then I would be like, oh, wow, I do enjoy this and it does taste good.
It's a little progression though. And you find the stuff that you like, the stuff that you don't like.
Right. So there was, you find one thing you like, green beans made this way, and then you make them that way for like 4 months, and then you're like, all right,
I'm done with green beans. That's good. Move on.
Over green beans. So,
but that's an interesting point that you just sort of slowly over time have been incorporating all this stuff.
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like some people, they could probably make, a drastic change from eating out a lot or eating processed foods to going totally natural. But I think more realistically is a way to gradually change by making little changes in your diet, by changing one thing here or there, changing dinner. Then once that becomes a habit, changing lunch or things like that. So I think as I gradually went through my process, I started adding more fresh foods and realizing how much better you can actually feel when you eat food that nourishes your body versus
real food. Crazy real food.
Versus the processed food and things that you could just buy at the store. You go buy freezer chicken or freezer meals or have shakes for breakfast, things like that. The difference, how you feel from when you actually make your meals and eat fresh food is, a total 360. So I think that's kind of what also got me into wanting to try the Whole30 is it eventually led to, okay, now here's this new challenge where I have to eat all fresh food and cut out sugar and any other kind of
or simple carbs,
like any
gluten,
grains.
Yeah,
grains. So you could still have potatoes and fruit and things like that, but it was, and with the Whole30, I liked, even though it restricted you from eating those things, it didn't restrict your portion control. So you can, have a full plate of what?
Fresh fruits and meat.
Yeah. And you weren't restricted to, only have a cup of potatoes and a cup of chicken. So you still were able to feel full and satisfied at a meal, and probably, depending on how your eating habits are, just feeling just the way that food can make some people feel. They use it as like a reward or something like that. So
it's understanding more of what food does for you rather than more than anything else.
Right. Yeah. So like, did I really need that treat after the meal? No, I wasn't really even hungry.
Yeah.
It was just
I come across a lot of that with my family. Come across a lot of that with some of those Alpha Primals out there.
And I think we all definitely do get into that kind of mindset sometimes where we think we deserve a treat or something after we eat. And that's great for special occasions, birthdays or parties and things like that.
Mm,
But for every day, it's not practical to
mhm.
be sustainable, I think, for health,
Well, yeah, I think
depending on how you're using
using
and what
food,
you're
yeah.
using. If it's,
There's definitely times where I'll notice that it's just like, oh, why did you eat that? It's like, oh, because I felt like eating that, right? It made me feel good at the time, and it's like,
yeah,
well, if that's the only reason that you're eating it, because now, not obviously, there are times to indulge. Wholeheartedly agree.
right.
We indulge. Um,
But we're talking about the 80% of the time,
yeah, I
though.
mean, and that's what I don't think people understand, because we only see them on a limited time basis. We're only seeing them, once a month, once every other month type of
Yeah,
situation, and we're always going out and doing something big, eating. It's revolved around eating and drinking and that, but that's not how it's our regularly scheduled programming.
right.
That's not our,
Monday
our
through Friday.
reality. And I don't think people will understand that part of it as much.
Having 80% of your diet be where you're eating that fresh, natural,
Mhm.
nutrient dense food, and then, you know, in, giving yourself the indulgences. But it does take time to get to that
Absolutely.
point where you can draw the line in between both things and be
Well,
able to enjoy it and then not like, oh, I had a bowl of ice cream now, let me go get another bowl and let me just finish this whole carton.
oh, there's only a little bit left. I'll just finish it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, that's one of the things that actually interests me and why I wanted to dive a little bit more into your story, because from what I've seen, you've built up like you say, these small changes, which over time have created this big, huge. I mean, from where you started to where you're at, huge lifestyle change.
Right.
And I think it really sets you up to have. I brag about it to my clients, so I'm just going to say it out loud and brag about it to you. But a pretty perfect pregnancy at this point. I mean, there were some things that were uncomfortable at times, but you're growing a person inside you, so that's gonna be expected. But I mean, you have done an extremely good job about maintaining eating well. Because you have all these habits, already part of your routine and part of your lifestyle, that it just seems like you have succeeded in this pregnancy quite a bit.
Yeah. And I definitely have tried to stay with the my normal eating patterns. Like, if I do feel hungry, then just maybe having a bigger portion size or something like that. But definitely where you're still meal prepping the 3 meals for the week so you don't come home or you don't go for lunch and you don't not know what you're eating. That's one of the biggest reasons that I meal prep is just because during the week I have no time to make food. I'm not going to wake up early to make breakfast. I'm not going to make dinner when I get home at 7 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
I would rather just have it mostly there for me to just heat back up or throw together and eat in 15 minutes. Because if you don't have that, then that leads to the temptation of going out to eat.
Hmm.
So I just really wanted to keep that habit throughout the pregnancy,
Right.
and that really has helped. And believe me, we definitely like indulged
Probably more than usual, but yeah, but
and how even going like through the first trimester when you're feeling more nauseous, curving what you eat to fit that, like more carbs, but definitely still making the priority 80, 70, 80% of the time to eat natural,
mm,
nutritious food. And there was one book that I read, Real Food for Pregnancy, where she talks a lot about, the recommendations for what pregnant women should eat versus, what she would recommend. And it's a kind of also like if you looked at the food
the
pyramid or,
scientist versus the real life situation type of my plate versus like my almost plate, like my plate.
More of the like, this is what is recommended for people in general to eat, you know, like how many servings of grains and stuff that we necessarily don't really need, and how they say what it changes for when you're pregnant versus, you know, what her recommendations are. I would definitely, if you are pregnant or trying to get pregnant or even postpartum, definitely a really great read for just information. Even eating real food for a pregnancy can be good for fertility. You know, it can really make a difference with trying to get pregnant, being pregnant, postpartum. And she kind of dives into all that and different lifestyle things in that book. And it really helped me stay on track, I think, with my eating because it was supportive of my already beliefs behind food. So I think with the pregnancy, it's just been trying to maintain and not gain, you know, too much weight, but being open to whatever happens. And the same with working out too. I mean, we've definitely altered workouts, and especially now in the third trimester, it's more just walking and stretching and movement, because you still need to prep your body for birth, but you don't need to, you know, be hammering out any crazy workouts. So even those videos that I post, you know, those are just fast forwarded. Don't really go that fast.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, I've said before. I think you've done a tremendous job with this pregnancy so far. I mean,
Thanks.
yeah, you're impressing me. Can't wait.
And it's good to have a.
And then moving after pregnancy and after we had the baby, what do you foresee as being the next step in the journey?
I think it's just more of the same, you know. Obviously, they say that you have to, if you're breastfeeding, to increase your calories, but just making sure that if I'm increasing my calories, I'm doing it with the same food that I ate before, just bigger portions, and, you know, feeling out what my body needs versus what I think it might need or what people say it might need. Listening to your body is probably the best way, you know, hunger cues, those types of things. And really you're trying to replenish a lot of the nutrients that were lost with having the baby. So it's important to still eat very healthy to refuel your body.
Well, and they even say, I mean, they and I think you do have a very realistic view towards it, but I want more women to have a more realistic view towards the postpartum side of pregnancy, because realistically you should still be taking in 500 to 800 more calories than when you were even pregnant.
Right.
500, 800 more calories for those who are breastfeeding. Then that's an addendum here. But especially for those who are breastfeeding, I mean, don't expect to start hammering out the workouts right away and
start some cleanse or some diet, because that's just not going to help with your recovery, or it's not going to be good for the baby either. And obviously we're not experts because we haven't gone through it before, but just from our research and knowing what we know, it's definitely still important to refuel the body. So, and don't try any new kind of diet. Don't go keto, or don't go intermittent fasting, you know.
No, I agree.
You need to refuel because your body just went through, you know, a huge event. So I think it's important to not really focus on the weight loss or anything like that behind it. Just focus on taking care of yourself and taking care of the new tiny human that you have.
A tiny little dude. Tiny little one. I love it.
That you're in charge of. So, yeah, I think basically moving forward, it's just about, you know, listening to your body and keeping up Hope we'll be able to, meal prep a little bit before the baby gets here, so we have some meals on hand, and just keep on going with what we're doing.
Continue the journey.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. Okay, so next week, what we plan on doing. So thanks everybody. I appreciate tuning in. Next week we're going to be going over a little bit of my journey, my background, and why I really truly dragged Ashlee into doing these video blogs. So just like last time, if you guys do have questions throughout the week, stuff you come across, if there's topics that you want us to go over, please shoot us an email at alphaprimal18@gmail.com. Yeah, we'll be putting out another video next week.
Have a good night.
Bye, guys.